And what an incredible morning it's been. I mean, we just had on the president and founder of Human Communications Institute and author of Average Sucks. So you can reach him at michaelbernoff.com. Later on, we're going to have the owner of Fast Signs in North Phoenix. And by the way, thank you for the feedback we continue to have from having the founder of Kayak on and the chairman of Travelocity. So make sure you go to Eliances.com. That's Eliances.com, the only place where entrepreneurs align. All right, our next guest and hero, he's created something that probably now more than ever you are all using, and I would say 99.9% of you have heard. And what do I mean by always using? Because, are you ready for this? We have with us Marc Randolph, the co-founder and first CEO of Netflix. That's right. Now over a $20 billion revenue. And he is author. And you know what? We're going to get into that too, because you're going to be blown away of what he is written now and what you're going to be able to get a hold of, his book. Welcome to the show, Marc.
Well, David, thank you. What's this 99.9? You got to let me know what that other 1/10% is, so maybe I can capture some emails or something like that.
You know what? They're ones that don't have any internet connection or TVs so they're like way out in the middle of nowhere. But you know what? I'm sure that we'll have an idea, be able to capture them in some way in the near future. So, Marc, talk to us first. Let's get right into the Netflix part and all of that. Like, how did that all come to be? What was your role in it? And, what was the initial part?
Well, the initial part was that things started in the way that lots of things start, is I was going to lose a job. The company that I had founded had been sold to a bigger company that was now being sold, and I was being made redundant. And so was the person who was running that company, a guy named Reed Hastings. And the two of us said, well, what next? And began casting about for ideas. And at the time, the idea was simply I wanted to figure out something I could sell on the internet. And Reed and I would brainstorm ideas during our commute to work together. And it wasn't just video stuff. We did personalized shampoo as an idea we tossed around, custom dog food, personalized sporting goods. And one of the ideas was doing DVD rental by mail. And we thought that ridiculous idea was compelling enough to give it a shot. So Reed became the angel investor. I started and ran the company, and off we went.
What's interesting, though, is then you ended up having to pivot. At what point and how did you know? Because right now, first of all, right, most all companies now are having to pivot in some way. And you went from the mail to sending in DVDs. How did you know and at what point to actually pivot to going to streaming?
Well, we launched the company in 1998, and Reed and I began talking about it back in early 1997. And from the very beginning, we knew that eventually people would be receiving television and movies digitally. We weren't sure whether it would be a download or a stream, but we knew that was coming. But of course, it didn't happen until 2007. So 10 years later. So had we launched a company on day one, which was a streaming company, it wouldn't have lasted more than a few hours. We had to do something that was a viable business in the short term, but yet would survive and thrive when that transition took place. So we launched it as a DVD by mail rental company. And we ran that company for 10 years. But the trick was not positioning it as a delivery specific vehicle. If we had said this is the best way to ship plastic, it would have gone out of business too once streaming came along. But if we had said it's the streaming solution, it wouldn't have worked when there was no streaming. So we did something orthogonal to all that, and we positioned it as the best place to find entertainment you love.
What do you think is the next phase?
That works.
What do you think is the next phase? What is the future?
That people will be beaming entertainment telepathically into our fillings. I mean, I have no idea. But the trick is they'll still rely on a company who stands for helping you find great entertainment you love, because that's a universal problem. And the way we get it delivered to us is a secondary one.
Now, you've also done a dozen, probably more than half a dozen startups in that. And we're getting some questions from our listeners and some of them match around the point is, at what point do you know that you've actually got something, or the point of when you should bail and shift and try something else? In other words, when do you know?
Well, product market fit, which is the, of course, technical term for it, it's a little bit like pornography in that it's really hard to define, but you know it when you see it. And all of a sudden, when you've achieved this product market fit, things just take off. All of a sudden, customers start flooding in. All of a sudden, all these problems which were intransigent before are broken loose. And for us, it took 1.5 years to figure out a way to actually make DVD rental by mail work. And once we pivoted to this thing called subscriptions and no due dates and no late fees, that ridiculous idea took off.
Amazing. Well, what's also taken off is the Eliances Hero Show. Why? Because I've got the opportunity, me, David Kogan, host of the Eliances Hero Show, which make sure you go to Eliances.com, Eliances.com, because we have with us, that's right, the co-founder and first CEO of Netflix. And you can reach Marc Randolph by going to marcrandolph.com, MARC Randolph.com. And again, we'll have it on our website at Eliances.com, Eliances.com. All right, talk to us now about this. You're an author. That Will Never Work: The Birth of Netflix and the Amazing Life of an Idea. What came to be about writing this?
Well, there's a couple things. First of all, there's become this whole cult of entrepreneurship and startups, and everyone seems to think that these companies spring out of thin air, fully formed and almost instantly successful. And the reality is it's a struggle. And I wanted to tell the true story of a startup, the true story of how Netflix came to be, warts and all the close calls, the times we almost sold the business, the fact that we were in this initially old bank building with no furniture, beach chairs that we all brought from home to sit on. I want people to see what it was really like. But the other reason is that I've kind of learned over my 40 years that all these tips and tricks and secrets that entrepreneurs use can be used by pretty much anybody who has an idea. And I kind of wanted to share those things with people.
Well, I'm glad that you're sharing it, because I'm definitely going to be getting your book, because you've got an amazing story in that. But I need to ask you is for some reason, this is also popping up all over. What's your favorite ice cream, and what's Ben and Jerry's got to do with it?
Well, listen, there's certain signs of success where you kind of know you may have done something good. And for me, years ago, the first thing that happened was Netflix was the clue in the New York Times crossword puzzle. I thought that was pretty cool. And then just about a month or two ago, Ben and Jerry's came out with I think it's Netflix and chill ice cream. And I went, okay, now we know we've made it as a cultural icon.
I love it. I love it. In the path of you doing these various startups and within Netflix and that, what, part of the things is as entrepreneurs, and I'm an entrepreneur, and a lot of businesses and entrepreneurs listen and watch our show and stuff. They want to know, though, is what further can they do? What are the secrets, the nuggets to really be able to dive in and to make it work?
Well, again, that's one of the reasons I wrote the book, and you'll find lots of those nuggets in there, but I'll kind of give you two of them right now. The first, and I think the most important one, is a good entrepreneur has a predisposition to action. They think less and they do more. I mean, for example, when Reed and I brainstormed in the car that maybe we could mail DVDs to people as a way of renting them, we didn't go back and write a business plan. We didn't put together a pitch deck. We turned the car around and went down to where we lived and tried to buy a DVD we could mail to ourselves to immediately collide our idea with reality. But the second critical thing is good entrepreneurs have focus. There's 100 things that are broken. Everything is on fire. And the best entrepreneurs learn that there's really just 2 or 3 things that if they get those right and focus on those at the expense of all else, pretty much nothing else will matter.
Well, Marc, you've changed how people get and view content. all with a great idea, and you didn't give up. You pivoted, and that makes you a hero because we're all now utilizing, that's right, Netflix. Make sure you go to MarcRandolph.com and check out and get his book, That Will Never Work, The Birth of Netflix and the Amazing Life of an Idea. This has been David Kogan with Eliances.